Well, the Crash Bandicoot video was a long way off, so I thought I'd fill the gaps a bit and talk about some movies again. What's on the docket today? I'm going to hell, aren't I? SpongeBob's SquarePants has been around for 25 years, and in that time it's been through a lot of peaks and valleys. From what started as a still funny and entertaining first few seasons has basically become nothing but babysitter fodder with no real lasting impact. I know part of that is due to TV ratings significantly declining, but even die-hard enthusiasts will tell you that SpongeBob is nothing like it once was. While the show does still contain glimmers of creativity and passion, it's safe to say that Nickelodeon's over-reliance on it has only made it worse. SpongeBob has had a plethora of low points. I could be here all day if I named them off. But somehow they did it. Somehow, even after softening up to Sponge on the Run, Nickelodeon surely has a wager to piss me off again. Because now we have Saving Bikini Bottom, the Sandy Cheeks movie. Nowadays especially, SpongeBob has been milked even drier thanks to the introduction of spin-off projects. I can't say all of them are bad, the Patrick Star Show is honestly kind of okay. But this? It's the new rock bottom. No, not the rock bottom. I meant the rock... Never mind. The Sandy Cheeks movie was so bad the first time I saw it, I proclaimed it to be my most hated film of the year. Yeah, even more than Megamind vs. the reviewing community. Admittedly, my growing frustration with Nickelodeon, particularly following the release of a recent docu-series, may have influenced that opinion. While I acknowledge that Megamind 2 is worse, the Sandy Cheeks movie is not far behind. And I'm not exaggerating when I say I'd rather rewatch The Splinter or One Course Meal than endure this film again. Or at least the second time I had to endure it. The first time was back in January, when the film was leaked in its entirety. But I didn't want to talk about it then out of fear of Viacom's copyright smugglers coming to get me, so yeah, now I can finally share my pain with my audience. I don't care if others have already reviewed it, I'm not going to enjoy the nature of Crash Bandicoot until I get to vent. Before I get into the real horse this movie provided, I should address Sandy up front. She is the main character, even if her subtitle is written in smaller text, which is why you can kind of read it as Saving Bikini Bottom! The Sandy Cheeks movie. And unfortunately, it fails to provide a compelling reason for why Sandy was chosen as the central focus. Not only does she lack a character arc, but the dilemma she faces regarding her decision to either return to her family in Texas or remain with her surrogate family in Bikini Bottom is hastily resolved without much depth or impact. It feels like Sandy was simply assigned the main character role without much thought or development, in contrast to the depth and significance of SpongeBob's roles in the previous films. The end result, yet again, of Nickelodeon making pointless spin-off projects for other characters when they amount to nothing. But of course it does get to explore more of Sandy's family roots, and I'll just say right now that her family is the... I don't want to say best, because that would imply this movie has any moniker of positivity. Most tolerable thing about it. I wouldn't call them good characters, but anytime they're on screen, the movie isn't actively a chore to sit through. And, I think that's it with the positives. Okay, now for the fun stuff. Remember at the start of the video when I said this movie was SpongeBob at its worst? I wasn't just talking about the franchise. SpongeBob himself is unbearable. There's not a single train of thought that crosses this nutcase's mind. All he does is laugh at anything that comes his way or scream like a banshee for the other half. He artificially serves no purpose to the story whatsoever. You could have just as easily cut him out to be with the rest of Bikini Bottom and nothing would change, except, of course, for the irritation levels! Also, he's a complete maniac. Special emphasis reserved for the scene in which SpongeBob randomly starts tickling people's feet in a swimming pool for no reason, or the fact he willingly smells a pile of shit. Like, holy shit. The timing of this movie's release couldn't be any more incidental, especially with that docu-series I mentioned earlier. I'm fully convinced that nearly everyone who works at Nickelodeon has a kink, and this movie shows that in full. They had a foot logo at one point in their history. Speaking of irritation levels, the rest of the movie sets it to maximum. It's all constant, verbal noise. It bombards you with an unrelenting barrage of incessant verbal diarrhea, leaving no room for silence, as if it's so afraid of losing kids' attention that it has to saturate every frame with a cacophony of noise that simply refuses to take a break. I get that SpongeBob is far from a quiet show, but at least it knew when to take a breather, and kids seem to love that. So what were you going for here, Nickelodeon? Oh wait, I'm sorry. Did I forget to talk about the story of this movie? All that happens is that Bikini Bottom gets taken away from the corporation that Sandy works for, so so now she and SpongeBob have to save the day, all the while running into Sandy's family along for the ride, which isn't a bad idea, but as I alluded to earlier, Sandy's family barely have any impact on the story, only existing to be more noise for the film. While still more bearable, it doesn't give much depth to this angle. I will say though, if Sandy really had to choose between her family and Bikini Bottom, I'd still choose the family, because even though the villain literally says that she was tricked into working for her, the Bikini Bottomites all just turn their back on her for no reason. She said out loud that she was tricked. Why are you suddenly mad at her? And speaking of the villain, I guess it's time to address her. She has a plan to take Bikini Bottom and clone everyone to sell them as pets. Why does she do this? I don't know, she's got a kink for sea life. That's all I got from the flashback. Everything minus the awful effects. I'm sorry, but why go through the effort of casting a younger version of this character only to crop in Wanda Sykes' head? And I mean, look how bad this is! Wanda Sykes' acting certainly isn't good, feeling the need to ham it up at every second, but at least it's better than her two stupid sidekicks.
She bought us a vending machine.
With money from our paycheck.
We get paychecks?
Oh my god.
Well, that was a load of shit.
And then there's the climax, a complete whirlwind of absurdities that defy all logic. The villain has an army of SpongeBob clones flooding the scene while Sandy manages to escape captivity, reuniting with her family. Then it's revealed that the villain is actually a robot, like, okay. But oh, the shock doesn't stop there, as the villain's head is suddenly decapitated, yet in a strange turn of events, she seizes control of a fish's body, finding solace in her newfound aquatic form, and the day is saved. It's a cinematic roller coaster that borders on unhinged, making me wonder if the scriptwriters were smoking just a tad bit too much. And if that's the case, give me some of that, because I need a real fever dream to forget this mess! Upon reflection, the animation wasn't too bad, to be honest. Comparatively, it doesn't reach the same level of effort or polish as seen in SpongeBob on the Run, but taking into consideration the budget they were working with, it could have turned out much worse. Yet this aspect only represents one part of the film. The live action segments are a f***ing parody. I've seen YouTube fan projects that have better editing than this $1 million film made for Netflix. From the quality of the acting to the cinematography and the special effects, it all screams cheap. I know it's just a streaming movie, but seriously guys? Millions of dollars earned from this franchise and this was the best result? Before I wrap things up, I feel like I need to owe Sponge on the Run an apology. Looking back at my original review in 2021, it definitely wasn't one of my proudest reviews, which I know I say for a lot of my older videos, but considering the year in which that review came out, I'm embarrassed by it. How I chose to get angry at a harmless film that's more middle of the road than anything else, and needless to say, my thoughts on it have significantly shifted. It's still not a good movie, but compared to this, it's a substantial glow up. I meant it all when I say that the Sandy Cheeks movie is the worst of the worst. The worst SpongeBob episode is still a masterpiece compared to this complete joke of a film. I sincerely hope SpongeBob doesn't get worse than this because they deserve so much better than this. From the barely distinguishable story to the cocaine-inducing levels of noise and visual diarrhea to the weird fetish material present, there's nothing I got out of this other than a somewhat tolerable family dynamic, which even then is still a joke compared to other animated movies. I think it genuinely sucks the movie got leaked, as I'm sure many who worked on it were crushed to see their work get shown so early, potentially diminishing their revenue. They deserved better, Sandy deserved better, I think we all deserve better. And I'm sincerely glad that Nickelodeon is getting the response it deserves, because the timing of this movie's release couldn't be any more coincidental. You know, on the topic of fan projects, maybe they're what I need right now. Let's see what we got.
Now is the time, now is the best time, now is the best time of your life. There's so much to cheer for, be glad you're here.